G'day. Danny Crouch here from Choose Your Chapter. And as we do, we're talking theme dynamics, but I'm doing this on the go today. Normally I'm stationary, but it's all about movement and shifting and moving forward. So today I want to look at my number 1 talent and my number 34 and the contrast between maximizer and context. So maximizer is an influencing talent that is defined by someone who looks for something that is good and wants to make it spectacular. They're out for excellence. They're wanting to make sure that everything they work with is great. Where on the other hand, context is a strategic thinking strength and a talent that focuses on perspective and what's happened in the past. So past experience of what works is what happens and is used by someone high in context. So they see the value in doing what they've done well in the past. So how do I look at that from having a number 1 strength of maximizer and a number 34 strength of context? So for me, if I look at context and focusing on the past, my assumption is, based on my training and experience, is that I tend to remember the bad things that happened in my past, or the negative, or the things that went wrong. So this is quite often how I find that it would be at number 34, my least strength. So if context is drawing on perspective, the resourceful state is to focus on what works and what does well. But more often than not, someone with context will find it hard to adapt and change and want to try something new. Because why change something that works? Why fix something that's not broken? So they draw on what they know will work. So they use perspective, they use past experience to allow things to go better. And it may not be looking for improvement, it may be just knowing the consistent results that you've done in the past will continue to come to fruition. Therefore, I can see how that would conflict with someone with maximizer, where they're constantly looking for ways to make something spectacular. So different, new ways. However, I spent 6 months working with a guy, a videographer, and he had context in his top 5. And I really learnt from him on how we could make things better based on his experience in the past. So combining there from a work environment where he wasn't a strengths coach, he was a videographer, but he allowed his presence of being in context and focusing on how he's done things through the video world in the past to allow me to maximize what we had in front of us. So we combined well and we worked well. So for maximizer, it can quite often focus on procrastination because we are continuously looking to over-optimize and make things better. And more often than not, that can come across as being quite critical. Because we tend to find what's good and want to make it great, we quite often forget to tell people, hey, that is pretty good, but it can be better. And from someone on the outside who doesn't realize what a maximizer is, they can start to think that maybe their project or their idea or themselves aren't as good as they're meant to be. So they start to doubt themselves and fear that it's criticism, not approval. But if a maximizer wants to play with you and work with you and hang around with you, more often than not, it's a sign of approval. It's suggesting, hey, what you've got is good and there's an opportunity to pair up there and make it awesome. So I'm yet to meet someone who has context and maximizer in their top 5. If you do, we'd love to hear from you. Throw some comments down below or even ask a couple of questions, because as we know, some of our talents tend to dominate the others in our top 5. So I'm always curious because maximizer is a very dominant talent for me at number 1, and I'm always looking for continuous ways of how to make things better. But my context has improved. I don't mean that it's changed rank. I mean that now I understand that it's about focusing on what's good in the past and drawing on that. I can bring that through my maximizer. So if you've got context in your top 5, look at what you draw on from your past experiences. And if you've got maximizer in your top 5, how much do you come across as being overcritical or judgmental? Because that's a telling trait, and it's not a case of beating yourself up, because more often than not, we expect the best. So we want the best from ourselves as maximizers. So there's plenty to play with there. So as I've told you, we're working on the Clifton StrengthsFinder, and we find our top 5 talents out of 34. So we want to focus on those top 5 rather than what we've done in the past in society is generally focus on what's wrong with us or what's broken or our weaknesses and what needs fixing. So by looking at our strengths and our talents. Hello, how are you?
Oh, wow.
There we go, neighbours, gotta love them. So that's what we do. We do theme dynamics here, short 5 to 7 minute videos on looking at the comparisons, the conflictions and the partnerships between different strengths. So this is something that interests you. Share an idea. What 2 strengths would you like us to look at? And you may find some interesting information, or scroll back through our YouTube channel and find other theme dynamics that either you've got in your top 5, or you work with someone, or someone in your family has conflicting or complementing talents. Because there's 34 of them and there's so many different combinations we can look at. So please share, ask questions, and remember, I'm Danny Crouch from Choose Your Chapter. Focus on your strengths. Bye for now.